In our Politics Lead, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear oral arguments this week over challenges to President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship. The justices will look at whether lower courts have the power to block Trump's order. It's a procedural issue, but it still could impact immigration and any other new presidential policies. My next guest is out with a new immigration plan today. Iraq War veteran, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, who's on the Senate Homeland Security Committee, joins me now. Thanks for being here, Senator. Good to see you. So part of your plan includes ramping up border security,
yes,
reforming the asylum system, finding a pathway to citizenship for certain undocumented immigrants, all of which sounds, I have to say, I'm a little older than you, I think. I've been covering this issue now for 25, 26 years. It sounds similar to previous attempts. Why is this going to be different? Why would this succeed?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to recognize is that we actually still have to prioritize border security first. In the past, we've always had this, trade-off between Democrats and Republicans. It was like, we will give you border security. In return, we want immigration reform. What I'm trying to say is, like, no, border security itself is a value that both Democrats and Republicans like. This comes from my campaign where I won a state that was very, very hard to win, ended up going, hard for Trump. And for me, what we heard from people every day, people on the border, people in Phoenix, people in Tucson saying, we want border security and we want a sane pathway to immigration reform for some people in this country. But it doesn't mean that they needed to both happen at the same time. And in some regards, the Democrats need to make sure that we get border security right in order for us to actually get trust with the American public, for us to get everything else right.
Do you have any Republicans on board with your plan?
No, today we introduced our plan, and it's it has been well received by a lot of nonprofits, immigration groups, as well as business and border groups, right? So we're going to try to work on that. And a lot of elements of this will be found in other even Republican bills. You have seen Republicans that are open to Dreamers, that are open to having a very flexible program when it comes to visas and worker visas. We have an element of this where eventually, once we have a secure border and we have a worker visa program that is well and very flexible, we actually have an E-Verify program. So this is something I think that a lot of people and a lot of Democrats and Republicans have talked about in the past, but it's an actual emphasis on reality of the politics of the border and border security that's happening right now.
So earlier today, a reporter asked President Trump why he is expediting a pathway to citizenship for one distinct group, South Africa's Afrikaners, which are the white descendants of the Dutch settlers in South Africa. Afrikaners, like I said, descendants of mainly Dutch colonial settlers. Take a listen to what he had to say.
It's a genocide that's taking place. Farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. We've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here.
In fact, a group of Afrikaners granted refugee status arrived in the U.S. today. What's your reaction to this?
That's all BS. First of all, the president can't offer citizenship. If the Republicans want to give power to the president to offer citizenship, I think they're opening up something that they don't want to happen. Number two, if these Afrikaners had ever showed up at the border and actually claimed that type for the claims that they're having, they would be automatically rejected, right?
Why?
Because you can't actually claim status of endangerment based on the fact that your land is potentially going to be taken away, which actually hasn't happened over there. So there are Cuban refugees, there are Venezuelan refugees that are actually literally being, politically hunted by the regimes in this country, and they're getting extradited from this country to very dangerous areas because this president can't tell the difference. This is just Elon Musk trying to play his politics, and Donald Trump is just buying right into it. By the way, this is a further example why we actually need to reform our asylum system. So there's actually clear pathways for people to actually apply, and it can't be a political tool used by politicians just so they could actually make their biggest donors happy.
This past Saturday, you had a town hall. You participated in a town hall, but it wasn't in Arizona. It was in my neck.
I've had 8 of those, but yeah.
Yeah, you've had them in Arizona, but it wasn't in your neck of the woods. It was in my neck of the woods, right outside Philadelphia in Bucks County. Trump won by nearly 300 votes in last year's election. That's the swingiest of the battlegrounds of the collar counties. Why did you go to Bucks County, and what did you hear from voters there?
Well, Bucks County is one of the many places I have been invited to speak since the election, and it's not the first swing state. We've been invited to speak all over the country. It's one that was convenient to my family's schedule. But I do think it's important that we are talking to everybody. We're talking to every part of America right now about what's happening. Specifically right now, we're trying to save Medicaid. And we just saw the House Republicans come out with a budget proposal that's going to end up cutting close to 12 million Americans from Medicaid. And the fact that we were talking in Bucks County to people that have an influence over a swing vote, it was important. And we're happy to rally them with the invite, obviously, of a lot of other Pennsylvanians. But it's going to come down to probably four Republicans, and one of them lives in Bucks County, and we're happy to be there to make sure we're fighting for them to save Medicaid. And the fact that they want to cut Medicaid to give the top 1% a bigger tax cut, I think everyone in that area wants to know that.
So during this town hall, you said, quote, sometimes my decisions are not going to be aligned with the National Democratic Party and that they are going to, quote, piss off a lot of people. Do you think that that's the way forward for Democrats? Because obviously the 2026 map is tough for your party.
Yeah.
And obviously your party's not in a great place. I mean, do senators, members of the House need to be taking on Democratic orthodoxies more?
Look, I think we have to throw the biggest net to win, right? We got to win in states that are, R plus 12. I won my state in 2024, and I think it ended up being an R plus 11 state. And that was a hard year. That means you had to really go against the tide. And we're going to have people that are going to run for offices in some of these states that we're not going to be in 100% alignment with. But if we claim to be the Big Ten party, we need to accept people in that Big Ten, even though it's going to make us uncomfortable sometimes, provided that we all have the core belief and that we want to have a government that is for the people and by the people, that's here to actually make the middle class work. And if that person is running in any state, if they're willing to run as a Democrat, maybe we're not going to have 100% alignment. I'm willing to support them. And if we don't get on that kind of timetable, we don't get on to that belief, we're not going to be in power, not just in 2026, but we're going to miss the boat in 2026 and 2028. Because we maybe can win the presidency, but have a very, very slim chance of also winning the Senate. And if we don't have the trifecta, it's hard for us to govern.
Senator Ruben Gallego, Democrat of Arizona, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.